Even men at the top of their game find themselves wanting more from life. Whether it's more meaning, unshakable confidence, a bigger impact, more money, deeper love, a hotter sex life, or a powerful legacy. Find out how good your life can be on this episode of Man Alive. Also, as I've supported men in their love and work lives for 15 years now, many men ask for the right words to say to be more successful, attractive, and desirable. But I found it's not so simple as giving scripts or lines because every man is different. So giving words or scripts would be like giving a tall, thin man a shorter, wider man's pants, or vice versa. The words have to make sense for you and your personality, and there's so much happening beneath the surface that people are responding to. If you're interested in how to become a better lover and leader in your own unique way, go to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz, or you can text ALIVE to 44144. It only takes a couple minutes and you'll start to get an idea of how you can be both more respected and desired. After you fill it out, we can schedule a time to review your quiz and talk about your specific challenges and desires. So again, go to either shanajamescoaching.com/quiz or text ALIVE to 44144. That's ALIVE to 44144. Enjoy this episode of Man Alive. Hello and welcome to this episode of Man Alive. I'm your host, Shana James, and I'm here today with Tim Wade. Tim, welcome.
Great to be here, Shana. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I am thrilled to be here to talk about a vision of who men can be and what men can do. And I know you have a vision in a way. You've seen a lot of men go through crisis, right? Often crisis of relationship and things fall apart and there's a lot of struggle and many fires to put out. And, you know, it's an intense time. And what I also know is that you've been doing men's work for 30-ish years and you've seen what happens after men go through crisis and what's possible, right? Who men maybe had no idea they could be or what they could do. So I feel really excited today to talk about this trajectory and to give men hope and possibility.
Right. It's something that I'm very passionate about. And even though I've been doing men's work personally for so many years, it wasn't until about 5 years ago that I started to coach men specifically on their particular problems. Yeah. And I have to say that the gateway into the work they do with me is almost always relationship oriented. Yeah. And usually it's pretty serious. It's like a separation, a divorce. Their wife suddenly says, I need space. Yeah. And the overall popular, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Mm-hmm. That's so many of them here. Yeah. And men are pretty stubborn. We guys, you know,
I'm not saying anything, keeping my mouth shut.
yeah, I can say it, having been one for quite a while. Mm-hmm. We wait for the pain to push pretty hard until we say, okay, and we cry uncle and say, I need some help. Yeah. I mean, I always think of us like the Black Knight in Monty Python. You know, it's like, it's only a flesh wound. It's nothing.
Yeah, merely a flesh wound.
Yes. And then finally they go, okay, I need help. Yeah. Yeah. But the good news is that once they get it, they get it. Like,
yes.
Go, yes. Wow. Yeah. I never knew that I could talk to another man in a way that's really meaningful. Mm-hmm. And do work that really helps me be more fulfilled and happier and peaceful and calm and confident and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, this is great. All right, let me give you a little bit of an intro for those who don't know of you, and then we can keep diving into that. So in his previous life, Tim was a successful, which means working actor, director, and writer in the entertainment industry, working for Disney, Universal, Paramount, NBC, and many others. However, since he's also been deeply involved in the world of personal growth and transformation with such groups as Landmark Education, the Pathways Institute, Insight Seminars, all this over the last 25 years, and becoming a professional life and business coach was then a natural step after leaving the limelight. But it was his unexpected divorce that really lit a fire under him to help other men like himself to not only navigate the sometimes treacherous waters of relationships, but become the best versions of themselves they can be. So thank you, right? That goes back to what you were saying, is that after the the fire is out, there's that reckoning, there's that sense of who am I really? What am I here for? Now that I've let go of the path that just seemed laid out before me, with expectations and family and culture and all of that, like, wow, what do I actually want right now?
Exactly. There's a fantasy sort of that we have of this is how it's all going to go, and
Yes.
then suddenly the rug's pulled out, and it's like, oh my god, and your hair is on fire, and you're running down the street, and it's all a manner of panic.
Yeah.
But there is hope to come out the other side, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so once they do the work of being able to make it through, just like I did, they do question, well, who am I, and
Mhm.
what do I really want, and where do I see my life going, whether it's still in the relationship, still in the marriage or not.
Right. Yeah. What was yours like? Is there anything that seems useful for men to hear from that story?
Oh, mine was fun and a walk in the park. It was just jam packed and full of
Full of light.
it was like most, first of all, like most guys, I was blindsided a bit,
Uh-huh.
so I didn't know it was coming. Women seem to have their finger on the pulse of this much, much sooner than men ever do. In fact, even to the point of being almost 2 years before they actually pull the trigger.
Mm.
I was much the same and went into a free fall at first. And I was fortunate that I was already a coach and I was trained and I had a lot of tools and I had support.
Yeah.
So I was able to fairly quickly decide that no matter what happened, I was going to come out a better man. On the
Yes. Yes.
That was really the big decision, and I wish in many ways that I had had the resources I can now offer men. I
Hmm.
had to sort of make a lot of them up as I
Yep.
went along.
Yep.
And but I did start to grow and understand that I had been a man who was passive largely.
Mm.
I was a nice guy, the guy who placates and is very malleable, and I don't know, what do you want, and I'm, and all of that,
Yeah.
uh, and not in touch with my masculine strength.
Mm. Hmm.
So I was very good on the sort of feminine energy side of things. I was, caring and loving and kind and lots of those things.
Yeah.
But that was the big complaint was that my ex-wife said, "You're being a little boy,
Mm.
and I don't want to sleep with a little boy."
How do you know what she meant when she said that? What were the ways that you were being a little boy?
Yeah, I expected her to take on some of the more adulting, as they call it now. I never knew it was a verb, but now it is.
Now it is.
In the relationship, in terms of taking care of a lot of logistics and just kind of stepping up. And it turns out she didn't like that at all,
Mm.
as she took on a more masculine energy of being out in the world, go getting. She's always been quite a businesswoman,
Yeah.
and I was sort of sitting back. She was getting more and more angry about it.
Uh-huh.
So I got it when she said that. It went. First of all, it was like, ouch,
Yeah.
right?
That must hurt. I can't
And then it
imagine that.
was, yeah, I get it. Okay,
Mhm.
and
Which takes a lot of humility to feel the ouch and then to get it versus to have all the defenses come up and the protection come up and the, well, you and I don't, and all of those things.
well, I had all of those too.
Yeah.
I'll be honest,
Let's be honest.
but I also had some help,
Yeah.
because every good coach has a coach, right?
Mhm.
So I had some people who were able to reflect back to me and, well, maybe you want to think about this. Maybe you want to look at this. Maybe she has a point. So that was when I realized, oh yeah, I get it.
Uh-huh. And what would you say you found for yourself? Because you talk about it as masculine strength,
Hmm.
and that can be defined in so many ways. So as you went through this and as you thought, okay, I am going to look at this, what did you get to reclaim for yourself?
Well, of course, it's a little confusing these days exactly what masculine is exactly. I mean, there's so many quote definitions. There's so many, I think, polarities. There's everything from the, uh, macho alpha jerk, so to speak, bad boy. There's the, nice guy, metrosexual, that kind of guy, and everything in between. Bearded lumberjack, you name it. And yet they're all roles. They're all facades in a way, as opposed to
Yes.
being truly who you are. So what I learned was that where I was lacking was the ability to be the rock when I needed to be,
Mm.
and not be swept into turmoil, and I was very codependent. So I bought into the happy wife, happy life
Uh-huh. Story.
myth
Yep. Myth.
story, and thought, if I just make her happy, then everything will be fine. But it turns out if I'm unhappy in doing so, then I get resentful,
Right.
and eventually I would blow up.
Yeah.
So I was like a time bomb
Yeah.
ticking. So I learned how to not be that little boy who throws a tantrum, because those blowups were like little tantrums.
Yeah.
I learned how to deal with my own anger, take care of myself.
Uh-huh.
And as I tell some of my clients, I say, sometimes it just boils down to, next time your wife asks you what you want to do for dinner, have an opinion.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it can be as simple, instead of saying, I don't know, what do you want to do?
Right. I was talking with someone yesterday about leadership. What does it actually look like to lead without thinking, well, now to be a man, I have to lead all the time. Or like you said, there are so many different variations. We're all unique in certain ways. And yet there is something I think to be said for masculinity and femininity, whether it's in a man or a woman or a person of any gender, that there is I think leadership in a way is a I don't know if I want to say it's a masculine quality. That's a whole nother podcast that we could we could debate.
Right.
But I do see from what you're saying, right? Instead of just I'm gonna follow or I'm gonna go along, there is something about have a preference, and take the lead sometimes and get things done, handle things.
Exactly. Be proactive is
Proactive. I like that. Yeah.
It's a lot of it. And you're right. It's not, women are absolutely have leadership qualities. I
Hmm.
think they lead differently than men.
Yeah.
And it's a question of how do we co-lead, I think, a lot of times in a
Like
relationship.
that. Yeah.
And that's not easy. That's a
No.
lot of being connected and being very available. I think that it's a lot of complex paradox.
Yeah, it is. I'm realizing as you say that, like connected, to be able to co-lead, there has to be a connection, there has to be communication, there has to be a way where things are in the light instead of the shadow, right? Where it's like explicit instead of we're kind of implicitly going along in these roles and patterns that we've just been doing since forever.
Right. And it's interesting how men have, in particular, have gotten very polarized into that. What being a man means: strong, without showing their feelings. Always armored up. Nothing can hurt me. I think is actually a book that is
Wow.
about that extreme
Yeah.
of masculine, and that is part of being masculine. There is a point when you need to call upon that kind of solidity.
Hmm. Hmm.
However, it's also the ability to be kind, compassionate, have empathy. And I see this a lot in my being a father.
Yes.
And I have two teenagers, and I need to be both tough and tender with them.
Yes.
When I say tough, I mean solid,
Mm.
like no means no. But
Right.
I
No means
also
no, and you can still say that with love. It doesn't have to be that you're being an asshole.
exactly
Hmm.
that when it's firm, and they know where that the boundaries are not going to move. That I have firm boundaries
Hmm.
that are fair,
Yes.
and that I'm consistent. I think that consistency. When I have clients who say my wife says she doesn't trust me,
Uh-huh.
and they say I don't understand. I never cheated. I don't lie. I'm an
Yeah.
upstanding guy. And I say, yeah, what she's saying is I don't trust that you know who you are and that you're going to consistently be that person.
Woo! That is a powerful distinction, right? That it's not about, oh, the things you haven't done, that you haven't cheated, or these, huge crises. It's actually a much deeper level than that.
Yes, it's that you can be counted on. And the only way you can do that is if, as a man, when I say you know who you are, I mean you know your values,
Mm.
your beliefs, your principles, your standards, your boundaries, all of that stuff. It's not, oh, I'm a lawyer who makes this much a year and I was born in Chicago.
Right.
That's not who you are.
Beliefs, standards, principles, boundaries, values, those are powerful.
And that you live out of those values, even when it's not convenient,
Hmm.
right? Even when no one's watching. You're not
Wow.
doing it in order to get validation, in order to get loved and liked. You do it because it's who you are.
Yeah. And I just wondered, yeah, how do you make the leap from doing it to get something or to get validation to that place of actually doing it for yourself?
Yeah, it's definitely a process and even a practice, I think. I mean, when I talk about, what men, the vision I have for what men can become in the world,
Yeah.
I don't think it's certainly not just flip on a switch and there you are. I think it's a journey.
Yeah.
I like to call it a mountain with no top.
Mm,
And so, what men learn to do is to love climbing. They realize that at every time they come to a ledge, there's more to go. They've
I
come to a
love
milestone,
that.
maybe, but you know,
Yeah.
and when you take on that, it gives you a sense of longevity
Uh-huh.
and stamina, not the short term, instant gratification that we're also used to having these days.
Yes. I think I was reading a past transcript of a podcast I did with someone where they were talking about that transition from, being more of a boy or youth into manhood, and that sense of actually taking on responsibility and not just that short-term pleasure. And I know you have you call it the lion-hearted man, this new vision. Can you describe that?
Yeah, I called it Lionhearted in particular because I felt like it spoke to the combination, the paradox almost of being the strength of a lion, but an open heart.
Mm-hmm.
That you could be both of those things. You could be unapologetically masculine
Yeah.
in the way that it is genuine to you, and if that means that you go and cut down trees with a chainsaw, great. you know if it means whatever it means to you, you could be an artist, you could be a business person, you could be an engineer, but it's all about authentically being yourself
Mm-hmm.
and resting comfortably, being comfortable in your own skin by integrating these parts that the men I work with, it turns out, are deep feeling men, and they're deep thinkers,
Yep.
and they're very much not into being shallow and, yeah, how about that football game and let's have a beer. That's all
Yes.
part of it. Sure, that's fine. That's recreation. But
But
they
there's
also
there's more than that. There's a
there's a,
depth. Hmm.
and that depth is very attractive, I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, would you say that a man who really knows uh, who he is, and he knows what he wants and he can ask for it without apology, and he has an idea of what his life is about, purpose,
Yeah.
vision, doesn't
Yeah,
that feel
it
like
is attractive. I
magnetic?
mean, I'm a particular kind of woman who I go deep myself. So I know that we're all different. And we all, whoever you are, I think there's someone out there for you. But I really do appreciate that depth that, well, when a man is willing to go deep into his own heart, his own soul, his own psyche, and to look at not just, oh, we're here randomly on a planet floating through space, but how do I want to use this time, and what do I want to make of it, and who do I want to be, and what do I want to commit to, right? That to me feels like it's full of fire and energy, and that, yeah, I think of that lion's roar. It's powerful.
It is. It's that spark, and that spark is really something that attracts not just a mate or a lover. It attracts others. It's being a leader in a way that is not stepping into it. It's, you're almost appointed a leader.
Yes. Yeah.
because people look to you to be a role model, like your children, or you can lead your family, you can lead your community, you can lead the world. I mean, it's not just, oh, I got to be president to be
Right.
leader.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like the paradoxes that you've written now, strong and kind, calm
Hmm.
and passionate, self reliant and interdependent, confident and humble, tough and tender, principled and open minded, courageous and vulnerable, and also the shadow and the light. And that these are seeming contradictions, but actually they become not contradictory as you start to integrate them.
That's right. They live well together if you let them. But a lot of boys are taught, men don't, boys don't cry, boys don't show emotion, they don't talk a lot, or all of those role
Yeah.
models that are, they just don't work anymore. They're no
Yeah.
longer appropriate for the 21st century. Uh, and I always say and because it
And
is always an and, right? The men have a lot to offer when it comes to being able to tough it out if they need to.
mm-hmm.
When it's time to not be wallowing in your sad emotions and you need to actually take action, men are wired to take action.
It's interesting. I've heard some men recently go to that place of, well, men aren't needed, or or there's anger and some of these movements around, men are just used, um and that women have gotten to this place of, we don't need you anymore. And I think when I hear you talk about it, it feels like, okay, we can actually, again, one of those paradoxes, we can go beyond need perhaps into more consciousness of who do we want to be together, what do we want to create together, how do we want to collaborate together, in whether it's romantic or in other areas of life.
Right. I think we have so much to learn from each other, the masculine and the feminine,
Mm-hmm.
and we complement each other. We don't have to be adversarial,
Yeah.
and that it's so polarized. The women who say, "Well, we can even procreate without you," or the men who say, "Well, I'm going to go my own way and I don't need women." And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it comes from a deep sense of hurt, I think,
I
and not
agree.
and not feeling seen.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that men have a deep need to be respected and seen for
Mm-hmm.
what they contribute, and so do women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting how I see often with men and women I work with that in some ways it's not that different. In some ways, women want to be seen as beautiful and men want to be seen as effective, or, on one level, right? Again, then
Mhm.
the paradox is there does seem to be this deep longing to be just understood for who we actually are, to not have someone have expectations that we be some other way. And then that can get confusing too, because we have hurt and pain and how to show up in that without necessarily wallowing and falling into it, and how to navigate all of the daily demands. So it's not an easy path or task.
No, it's not. And I think that some of the epidemic with men of sadness, loneliness, the suicide rate for men is astronomical compared to women.
Astronomical.
And what's going on is a sense of futility
Mm,
and resignation because they feel like, I don't have a purpose, I don't have a mission.
hmm
And I not to put women in any sort of one down position. Mission is extremely important to the masculine.
Yeah.
Women have a mission, but in a different sort of energy, I would say. In that, I've always felt that I'm a very visual person, so I think of men's energy as very pointed,
Mm,
and that women's energy is very round. So women's energy, the feminine energy, when I say women, uh, is very enveloping and inclusive and surrounding. I almost think of like arms around you.
hmm
And men are like arrows. They're like pierce. They pierce the world. And if they don't know where that direction, that arrow is pointed, they get very lost.
Yeah.
and then they get very sad. And um, I think together those things work really well.
Hmm. Hmm. Right. And I think as I hear you say that, I think, okay, so loss and sadness and a sense of feeling kind of drifty or dull or angry, those all seem like signs of I'm floating and not on purpose, right? Because I could also see you and I both dabble also in the realms of gender and what gender actually is. And so there might be a man who feels much more round or soft, but feels happy and alive. And there's a vitality there, right? And a woman who
Yeah,
feels much more directed and clear. And maybe there is a polarity there, but I think,
absolutely. I think we all have the masculine and feminine in us.
yeah,
And it's really, where do you rest most comfortably
yeah.
in the mix of that? There's a book I just started reading called Invisible Partners, and
Ooh,
it is about the Jungian idea of anima and animus, and
ooh,
masculine and feminine living within us,
nice.
and that there are men who have a lot of the masculine energy,
Uh-huh.
and there are other and women who have that as well,
Hmm.
and that if they're okay with that, if that feels right and comfortable, absolutely.
Right.
I
And that's the sign, right? Does it feel right, comfortable, alive? Not the kind of comfortable that's like, I'm going to sit on the couch and not face, my fears because this is comfortable, but the kind of comfortable where you're at ease in your own skin and actually feeling good and awake and all of that.
Right, aliveness is a great way to put it. I
Yeah.
think that in for both genders, we want to feel both alive and connected,
Mm, I love that.
and not. I think it's fear driven when we become comfortable, as in complacent.
Yes. Complacent. Great. That's a great word for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we know now that there are. Everything seems to be a spectrum and not one side or the other side, black, white, good, bad, wrong, wrong. All of that, including perhaps masculine and feminine, has a
Mhm.
certain spectrum to it. And many other cultures have recognized this a long time ago.
Yes.
Native American culture, for example, have recognized that there are those who, have a different mix, for
Yeah, I think they have
example.
4 to 6 genders or so, something like that in the Native
Yeah, yeah.
culture.
And now I feel drawn mostly, or maybe these clients and men are drawn to me, to men who have struggled with, how do I have masculine strength and confidence
Hmm.
without being a bozo? That's the fear.
Yeah.
Because they're good men. They're really good men. And they don't want to be jerks.
Yeah, same. I think same. Most men who come to me are identify as a nice guy and but there's this sense of, right, there's a sense of actually not that aliveness or that,
Right.
that used to be aliveness and suddenly I don't feel alive anymore. And it often is men who have really big hearts and are kind-hearted and caring and, needing to get back in touch with some of that strength or chutzpah or the
Yeah,
boldness, the risk taking.
exactly. And a lot of them have this memory or sense memory of, I had mojo at one
Uh-huh.
time. I really did.
Yeah.
And what happened to that guy? Where
Yeah.
did he go? And one of the things that's important in the work that I do is letting men know that that guy's still there,
Mm.
and that really it's about uncovering and rediscovering, not changing into someone else, not pretending to be something you're not, not having to, you're not broken and need to be fixed. You're just buried. I feel
Yes.
like life buries us in all this
Oh
shit.
my God, I can relate to that.
And it's the shaking off of the shake off the shit in order to really
Find yourself.
completely fill who you are,
Mm.
in a way that is that makes you feel alive, as we said, directed, like life has a purpose.
Mhm.
Like you wake up in the morning. I want men to pop out of bed like a piece of toast, just out of the toaster. Just, and it doesn't always happen, but it can be at least a natural thing for you to
Yeah,
feel
to
like,
be inspired and to be have that aliveness of, oh,
yes.
I'm going to do something today that feels meaningful and exciting and interesting.
And part of that is being very, very self reliant and understanding that you are a person who creates their own circumstances, not is at the whim of circumstances,
Mm,
so that you know how you are going to be. So that being, not doing, and then let the day bring on its stuff,
yeah.
and and as opposed to, I wonder how things are going to work out today,
Ooh, that's a great
right?
distinction. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for this. I know this is just a tiny spoonful of the depth of the well that you offer. What do you want to leave men with for now?
I want to leave men with the idea that there is a way in which they can step into who they really are in a way that they won't feel afraid that they're weak,
Hmm.
because that's a big fear,
Yeah.
and in a way that they will embrace their natural masculine leadership, like I said, leading the family, leading their community, whatever it is, and be more alive. And they can do it starting now. They don't have to wait until something else happens.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you for your journey that, I have very deep respect for all the places you've gone and the ways and the conversations we've had, the ways that you've been willing to be undefended and to open your heart and to be humble and take on more strength with more love at the same time.
Thank you very much.
And where can men find more of you?
Right now, they can go to timwadecoaching.com, and that is going to be transitioning, and they'll see that when they go there, to lionhearted.men will be the website in the future. But right now, timwadecoaching.com is the place that they can contact me.
Awesome. And I highly suggest you do. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks.
I'm so glad you joined us for today's episode of Man Alive. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and it gave you something to consider and explore in your life. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful for you to subscribe and write a quick review that helps men like you find us. And again, head over to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz or text the word alive, ALIVE, to 44144 to get a sense of how you can become a better lover and leader. You'll start to see how you can be both more respected and desired in your unique and genuine way. If you don't feel as confident or as excited about life or love as you'd like to be, this quiz is a really great starting point and will guide you toward a more passionate love life and a more inspiring and successful career. So again, text ALIVE, ALIVE, to 44144 or head over to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz. Join us each week for a new episode of Man Alive.